Audible. Okay. Working fine. Yeah. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, welcome you all, ladies and gentlemen, for IIFL Securities Investor Meet. So I hope you will be getting a good insight about economy and stock market. So first, I would like to introduce Mr. Vinay Singhvi. He is the AVP and South Head of Sundaram Alternates. He did his MBA from United Kingdom, so with almost 14 plus years of work experience. So, Mr. Vinay Singhvi, please have the floor.
Is it on? Yeah. Hi. Thanks, Manor. So good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for coming on a Friday evening and spending time with us and hearing us. I think it's a brief introduction about me. First of all, in fact, I am indeed honored and glad to share the stage with Mr. Bhasin sir, I think who requires no introduction. He's been a veteran in the market. And of course, also a big thanks to IIFL for organizing this. So precisely, I have close to 30-40 minutes, so I'll be very sharp and straight to the point. And I hope after 30 minutes, there's a takeaway from the presentation I give. So I'll start with the company background which I represent, which is Sundaram Alternates. So I am a part of Sundaram Alternate uh, as an employee where we report to a bigger company called Sundaram Finance. So just to give you a background about Sundaram Finance, Sundaram Finance have been into the market for last 70 years, a leading NBFC player, reputed player, listed player, which roughly a market cap of close to say 20,000 crore. Uh, you know, been there into leading and leasing of commercial vehicle over a period of time. Under Sundaram Finance, there are 4 group companies. One is Royal Sundaram, which is part of the insurance group. The second one is Sundaram Home Finance, which is part of the home finance. The third one is Sundaram Business Services, which is part of the KPO. And the fourth one is the Sundaram Asset Management, which actually typically runs close to 40,000 crore of mutual fund. And under which there is a company called Sundaram Alternate, which runs the alternate piece, which is PMS and AIF. And we have roughly close to 5,000 crore of AUM. And if you subdivide that, we have close to 3,000 crore of equity AUM and roughly around 2,000 crore of private credit. So I'm actually going to speak on a private credit fund which we have. So before actually going on to the fund, I'll actually tell you what is private credit. So I mean, in terms of a stock or a company, when they actually raise money from the market, I mean, there are two forms, whether they go to, they raise through equity or they raise through debt. So when they raise through equity, I mean, they typically, when they raise to a stock market, it becomes a public raising money. So it becomes a public equity. And if they same thing, if they dilute their holdings and they raise through a fund, it becomes a private equity, private credit, a private equity. So basically, the concept is very simple, where the same actually implies to a debt, where when the company actually raise money through a bank or a bond, it becomes a public bond. And when they actually, the same company, when they raise money through a private placement or a fund, it becomes a private credit. See, I will tell you, this name is a bit fancy, but in Hindi we say कि ये बहुत पुराने टाइम से चलते आ रहा है, ब्याज का जो business है, and it's a pure loan business, where typically how do you ascertain a private credit? There are three baskets to it. Typically when you invest or when you give a loan to somebody, there are three baskets to look at. One is your capital protection, the second one is liquidity, and the third one is yield. But when you try to juggle all these three at the same time, typically you have to trade off against each other. So if you look at a higher yield, you typically lose out on the capital protection part. So the idea is to balance all three and have a trade-off. So over a period of say last 5 years in my alternate business, I have realized that there are only two mantras for a risk mitigation. So the first one is diversification, and the second one is to have access to information and ability to underwrite. So this is where the private credit platform comes into place. Can you just run the fund? Yeah. Yeah. So coming back to the history behind launching a private credit, I'll take you from a Sundaram perspective, that we have a history of 5 years of running a private credit business. The first fund which we launched was in the year of 2017, and we managed to raise close to say 400 crore there. And over a period of say 5 years, we've actually built a book of close to 1,500 crore. The fund typically, all these three private credit fund which we actually have done in the last 5 years was into real estate lending. And since Hyderabad as a market is known for real estate and other stuff, so I think it's a bit of a difficult market, and we have actually gone through the tough times where you can talk about demonetization, GSTs, RERA in a good way, and COVID lockdown 1 and lockdown 2. To be very honest, we have actually fundraised 1,500 crore across three funds, lent to 27 developers, and happy to report that in the last 5 years, we have actually not defaulted on anything. There is no capital loss to it. And the first fund which got closed last month has actually given a gross IRR of close to 15%. So that's the testimony of private credit business which we run. That is because of the underwriting financial metrics which we have. I mean, from a real estate perspective, we had 3 or 4 nuances which are different from the market. We were actually lending to a developer. Will be post RERA. The LTV was 50%. There were 2 times cover, enough equity under our belt. And one of the main nuances was lending it to South-based developer. So since Sundaram has been known for a South presence group, we made sure that we will not lend to West or North, and we will only lend to South. So that was the idea of starting from a private credit business in real estate, and then moving on to a more bigger sector, which is a corporate credit. So this fund, what we are actually launched, say a quarter back, is nothing but a mid-lending corporate credit fund, where what we are going to do is we are going to lend or give loans to companies with market capital of 100 to 1000 crore, where a bank as an arbitrage regulatory cannot lend to, and there are sectors typically something like an auto, manufacturing peripherals, APIs, pharmas. There's a varieties of sectors starting with south and belts of Kolhapur and Gujarat. So this is a fund which we are going to do, and I'm going to discuss about it. So to start with, I mean, see if you just, these are all macro indicators where if you see corporate credit to GDPs, or the demand for credit, or for any other indicators has always been robust in India. If you see roughly around 2.5 trillions of the credit in India was actually supported by bank as an support system. But lately, from 2013 to 2019, I think banks had their fair share of issues of the regulatory issues, and not even I mean the credit offtake not happening. So in that perspective, the mid-market corporate lending actually was not looked after. So that is where the demand for all this AIF structure came into place. If you look at from 2019 to 2020, I mean the banks had a lot of money, but the point was I mean most of the money was actually gone to the larger corporates. So all these mid-lending small corporates were not actually entitled to a lot of money. So if you see, I mean in this presentation, where there is an annual demand of close to 10 billion, which normally generates every year in terms of the demand for the capital for the SME segment. But if you see the supply on this side, which is roughly around, say, put together all the consortium of Sundaram and other guys who are actually lending, it will be roughly around 2.5 billion. So the gap every year annually which is created is roughly around, say, 7.5 billion. So there's a huge space, which is a huge void which is created, and there's a demand for capital which is not supported by bank, and that is why a structure like AIF comes into place. So this is an interesting slide where why where are we actually lending to? So if you look at, I'm sure, I mean, I understand it's not clear, but actually I'll go through that. See, there are three buckets to it. One is that higher grade investment where you have all the public bonds, tier 1, tier 2, or you can go for a tier 3 unsecured bond, which are ranging around 6 to 8% somewhere. And then you have the far end spectrum which are the deep distress sort of, which requires a turnaround, lumpy cash flows, which are somewhere around yield around 20 to 25%. But there is a segment in between which is called as performing credit, where the demand is somewhere between, I mean the yields are somewhere between 13 to 17%, short requirement of 30 to 50 crore of loan from a tenure of say 3 to 5. That is where eco comes in, and there are a place where eco comes in with a more secured structure. So okay, so this is a page where this is a slide where it shows that these are the spatial opportunity where bank cannot lend to. It could be a bridge financing, it could be a promoter financing, it could be a various sectors spatial opportunity where bank could not, as a regulatory arbitrage, cannot lend to, and that is where a structure like AIF like us comes into play. And I'll actually give you a deal which we have already done through this fund, which will give you a flavor as to how we go about a deal. So typically we have done a textile deal of 22 crore at a contracted IRR of 20%. So the promoter actually wanted to buy a company from LCLT, and that is why he actually taken a loan from us. For a 22 crore of loan, he has actually given us a security worth 50 crore. So that is basically 2 times of security he has given. So the one time is basically from his existing cash flow, which is generating close to 6.5 crore of EBITDA, which is roughly a 50 lakh of business cash flow, and one times, which is roughly around 22 lakhs or 22 crores, is basically from his personal guarantee of his house, villa, and other things. And the way the term sheet has been signed, there is an exit option that he has agreed to sell close to 10 crore within 1 year. So the debt to basically EBITDA from 4.4 times becomes 2.2 times. So it's a very cleverly structured deal which has been done over a period of time, and it's like a roll down. and with dual security from his existing cash flows and also from his personal assets. So that is sort of a flavor which that is sort of a deal which we typically do and look at the other deals. So this is a interesting one where this is what the fund is all about, where this is the return spectrum which we typically project. So what we do is, this is a senior secured loan which we give. So every deal which we do will be senior secured. We'll be typically lending at 17-18%, and after all the expenses and all the carry, a client will typically make 13 to 14%. How does it happen is typically we will have a quarterly coupon every quarter. The company will typically give us a quarterly coupon which will be passed back to the client, and there is no fancy back-end structure, tax-enabled structure. Everything is black and white, written on a term sheet. So it is basically a roll-down structure. So it's a 6-year fund where we will do a deal for 3 to 5 years. Every quarter, the yield will go to the client, and from the 4th year, the moratorium gets over and the principal also goes back to the client. So between year 4 and year 5, typically a client who's invested 1 crore, he'll get back his principal plus interest back, and the 6th year it becomes the money multiplier. So if a deal is structured smartly, oh, that's fine. Hello. Yeah. So if the deal is structured smartly, there's always a premium to the liquidity which we can charge. So this is what the structure of the fund is, and it is how it is done. So this is another important slide where how are we different from the market, and what is the commitment or downside risk of the fund. See, typically, there are a lot of borrowers, but in terms of lending, there are a lot of competition. So there are close to 3 or 4 nuances where we are different from the market. The first point is our sponsor, Sundaram Finance, is actually going ahead and giving a 20% commitment to the fund, which as per SEBI regulation is only 2.5. So they're going ahead and giving 20% of the fund, which is roughly around 100 crore of a target size of 500. So there's a deep skin in the game and commitment to the fund. The second thing is there's a warehouse facility where the client who typically comes to us would be knowing as to what sort of deals we are already done. So basically, the deals are already done from the Sundaram Finance balance sheet, and the fund will typically buy when the closure happens. And the third one is your co-lending facility. For every deal the Sundaram Finance, the fund does, there is an enabler that Sundaram Finance can co-lend the deal and protect the deal in terms of the downside risk protection. So these are different sort of mechanism where we have created. In terms of risk mitigation, there are 2 things which are very important to protect the downside. One is so basically, how do you do it? In terms of risk mitigation, there is diversification which is required. So for deal, we actually going to do a 500 crore of ticket size, and we actually going to have 10 to 12 sort of a developer, companies, where the ticket size for all the companies would be somewhere around say 30 to 40 crore. So even if at the end of the tenure, if out of 12 to 13 companies, even if 1 or 2 had to go bust, I think the client can safely, from his principal, gets protected and makes interest on it. So that's the idea of making small deal. And the second important point is the deal origination. So since Sundaram Finance has been into the business of lending and hiring of commercial vehicles, there are a lot of sub vendors like your auto ancillaries, manufacturing peripherals, which are not attended because that's not the core business of Sundaram Finance. So that deals have been attended by this fund, and there are a lot of internal metrics that you can know the credit history, you can know how the guys have been performing. So all this having said and done, there's a downside risk protection which happens in the fund. So this is the philosophy which, in terms of every fund will have an expert on the board, and this is our investment committee. So there are 5 people to it. And if you see, out of 5, the 4 people actually represent from Sundaram Finance. So this fund is totally mirrored and powered by Sundaram Finance, where Mr. Karthik Atreya, who is part of the Sundaram Alternate, he is the fund manager and head of strategy for this fund. And rest other 4 guys are actually from Sundaram Finance, be it Harsha Viji, who is the family person, Mr. Rajiv Loshan, who is the MD, Mr. Raju and Mr. Ramaswamy are part of the Sundaram Finance ecosystem. So these are the deals matrix typically we have, which we are going to do. So yeah, I think I've already run through the our previous credit history of real estate fund. So that's about it from my side. I mean, if you want to have Q&A now or you want to have later. Yeah, okay, sure. Thank you everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Vinay Singhvi, for having a good insight about corporate credit opportunity fund. So just to give a small update, see, majority of the developed countries will be having more than 70% of the market share only from credit opportunities. So I think for the next 3 to 4 years, we'll be having a good pickup in Indian market also. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Manish Batwara. He is the fund manager of IIFL Securities. So he is going to have a brief introduction about IIFL Derivatives Advantage Fund. Welcome.
Thanks, Vinay, and many congratulations for your new product offering. It's a really great one. I wish a great success in it. Thanks for inviting me. Life wasn't designed to be risk-free. Life wasn't designed to be risk-free. The key is not to eliminate it, but to estimate it wisely and manage it carefully. Isn't it? Do you all agree with me? This is the core principle of any investing. If you know your risks, if you know how to mitigate your risks and how to deal with it, then you can manage any kind of portfolio in all kind of market volatility. Are you with it or not? And this notion doesn't belong to only the portfolio management. Whatever work you do in your life, if you know your risks and you know that what are the consequences associated with that risk, then definitely you can prosper your work or whatever you do in a much better way. This we have been following for last many years in our product management, that we never deviate from the risk management and we always follow and properly manage our risks in a much better way. That's why we are able to sustain our investment objective, whatever we have set for our fund. So good evening, guys. Today I am here. Can you show the slides? Today I am here to discuss about our newly launched fund, which is an alternative investment category fund that predominantly invests in Indian derivative market. I am the fund manager of this product, and today I would be covering that how this product is different from the existing category fund that are available in the market, and what was the rationale behind choosing this product as our investment underline, and about the product perspective. So before going to the product specific, I would like to ask you a few questions. That how many of you really feel that by investing in derivative, one could generate consistent returns in all kind of market situation, and this is really a good tool to hedge your portfolio. And now people have started investing in derivative as an investment, by taking as an investment option. Any one of you, if want to say something? Do you not believe in derivatives? Any one of you? Pardon? Can you give the mic? Okay. Derivative is generally like, there are cash stocks and derivatives. Two things we generally trade in the market. In cash stock, you have to give entire margin to buying that stock, and then you can hold it. In derivative, you have to give a certain amount of margin, and then you have to, like, it's on an expiry basis. It's a monthly expiry, weekly, and quarterly expiry trades you can do in derivatives. Like suppose if you want to buy Reliance stock, of 100 quantity, then you have to give 2600 into 100. That much of amount you have to pay for the Reliance. But at the same time, if you want to buy the Reliance future, then you have to give only 10% of total margin. And that you can keep for the month or quarter like this. This is for the options only. This is for the future. And options, like same kind of margin you can give, and that have the weekly and monthly expiry. So this kind of work we do in the derivatives. So like we have, like anyone is there who trade in derivatives here? So can you share your experience, sir? Anything? What you have faced lastly, like loss, profit, कुछ भी हुआ है? क्या किया मतलब derivatives पे? Erosion of capital only. तो क्या करते हो? Like without hedging you do futures or what? Yeah, I am glad to hear your words, sir. This is the core management of derivatives. अगर रिस्क आपने मैनेज नहीं किया तो डेरिवेटिव आपकी कैपिटल वाइफ ऑफ कर सकता है, लेकिन अगर आपने रिस्क मैनेज किया तो ये एक ऐसा प्रोडक्ट है जो कोई भी मार्केट में आपको कुछ भी अर्न करा सकता है, लाइक इन अ कंजर्वेटिव वे. Like I'll show you in subsequent slide at how I have managed derivatives lastly in last 3 years track record I have, in which like in all kind of market I had generated positive returns for my clients. So this is a great tool which have in the derivatives. And you will be surprised to know in last 5 years, derivative turnover has risen by more than 100%. Like if you compare the NSE turnover, and it itself has notched 2-time highest ever derivative turnover worldwide. अगर सब लॉस ही कर रहे हैं तो टर्नओवर क्यों राइज हो रहा है? कोई तो कमा रहा होगा, लॉस करने के लिए तो कोई भी नहीं आएगा. आर यू एग्री ऑन मी विद मी? अगर सब कुछ लॉस ही करेगा तो क्यों टर्नओवर 200 टाइम्स बढ़ जाएगा डेरिवेटिव्स का? वर्ल्ड वाइड में एनएससी का 2-time हाईएस्ट एवर टर्नओवर आया इन लास्ट 5 years. और in last 2 years, lot of young participation is there in the derivatives. जितना भी अभी जो लास्ट 2-3 साल में जो हम सुनते हैं कि इतने अकाउंट खुले हैं, उनमें से 50% अकाउंट्स आर इनटू डेरिवेटिव्स. क्योंकि इसमें हर तरीके का ट्रेड है, ऑप्शन का ट्रेड है, फ्यूचर का ट्रेड है. बाय गिविंग अ वेरी लेस मार्जिन यू कैन ट्रेड इन डेरिवेटिव्स. और जो कोविड का टाइम था, उस टाइम आई इटसेल्फ मैनेज लाइक इन अ लाइक इफ आई से इन अ हेजिंग पार्ट 100 crore का पोर्टफोलियो by giving you only by deploying only 4 to 5 lakh rupees, I saved that capital of 100 rupees. Otherwise, in other client it wiped off by 40%. And that time we saved around by hedging of 4 lakh rupees, it saves around 32 crore rupees for that client. So it's a great advantage to hedge their portfolio. तो derivatives से हम hedge कर सकते हैं, trading कर सकते हैं, everything is there in the derivatives. If you follow in a consistent and regular way and a more calculative approach, like अगर आप ऐसे कह के हार्ड मेंटलिटी में काम करोगे कि ये स्टॉक ले लो, ये बेच दो, या फिर ये ऊपर चले जाएगा, ये नीचे चले जाएगा, कभी काम नहीं करेगा आपका. लाइक होता क्या है, बहुत सब लोग सब मेहनत करते हैं, लेकिन अगर आप एक कैलकुलेशन बेस पे काम नहीं करोगे तो कितना भी अच्छा रिपोर्ट होगा किसी भी स्टॉक का, किसी कारण से, क्योंकि स्टॉक में अनसिस्टमेटिक रिस्क होती है बहुत ज़्यादा, उसमें कभी भी मूवमेंट आ सकता है. I hope you have seen many times that Nifty is going high, 100 point, 200 point, and some stock is giving a negative return by 10%, 5%, और कभी निफ्टी बिल्कुल फ्लैट होता है, उसके बाद भी कुछ स्टॉक 10% मूव कर जाते हैं. तो like in my way of management, I never trade, like I do only 2 to 5% in stocks, क्योंकि स्टॉक्स में काम करना बहुत रिस्की है, नेकेड फ्यूचर में काम करना बहुत रिस्की है. Whenever I do in a stocks, I always buy the put. At least मैंने एक प्रीमियम दिया, उससे मेरा हैश तो हो गया, उससे ज़्यादा तो मेरा लॉस नहीं होगा. I am not God. No one can expect market accurately. At least 100% accurately कोई मैनेज नहीं कर सकता मार्केट को. तो बेटर है हमेशा उसे हैज करो. उसमें क्या होगा, थोड़ा सा कम आपको अर्निंग हो जाएगी, लेकिन डाउनफॉल तो आपका पूरा सेफ रहेगा. This we do like from last many years. I'll show you in the subsequent slide. Can you For this fund, we have set our investment objective to generate risk-adjusted, consistent returns in all kind of market format by beating the fixed income instrument returns by employing various derivative strategies. And now the question comes that why we are comparing with the fixed income? Because जो मेरा manage करने का तरीका है, it's more or less same with the fixed income. I always try to manage my position on a monthly basis. So consistent return is there on a monthly basis which can beat the fixed income. I'll show you the return chart also later on. So that's why we are comparing with the fixed income and derivative CAT 3 में जो भी आपका return बनेगा, it's a tax-free return. Because CAT 3 funds में taxation is on the fund level only. Investor के हाथ में जो भी जाएगा, investor doesn't need to pay any tax on that. Like here we are targeting post-tax return of 9% on whatever amount you will, minimum is a 1 CR amount. If you invest in this fund, 9% post-tax we are targeting between 9 to 10%. At same time, if you invest in the SBI FDR as of now, you will get around 6.1% returns. But after adjusting the tax and inflation, it would give you a negative return. But at the same time, if you invest in derivative fund, conservatively, if 9% will also there, then also you will generate a positive return on your income. Are you with me on not for this? आप SBI में FDR करते हो तो इन्फ्लेशन एडजस्ट करने के बाद नेगेटिव रिटर्न निकल के आएगा. Is I have any other apprehension for this? Yes. See, guarantee word we can't use as you know that it's not allowed to use anything, but I have a track record and I did this for last many years. I'll show you in the all kind of market situation that my returns are static and in a linear way. That's why we are sure that we can generate this kind of return. Yeah. गारंटी तो फिक्स में भी नहीं है सर. 5 लाख का गारंटी है. कोई एफडीआर में भी आप करोगे या किसी में भी करोगे.
I agree with you, but at the same time, if you go to some banks reputed, if they also go bust, nothing can be done. So whole world is going to crash. That's a different thing. But if you go for a fixed, like good banks, they are likely to give you certain amount of it. Not that I agree with you fully, but now it is depending upon your capability and your caliber. And also, past performance is not a guarantee for the future performance. Do you agree with me?
Yeah, I am completely agree with you.
So that's.
But if you want some alpha on it, then definitely you have to take at least some kind of risk. Because अगर हम लोग कुछ ज़्यादा दे रहे हैं तभी हम रिस्क में भी हैं. अगर सेम ही लेना है तो you can invest in the FDR. But here we are targeting post-tax 9%. Post-tax 9% का मतलब हो गया 17% pre-tax. Because fund level पे 42.7% का tax होता है in a Cat 3 fund. So if you are targeting some higher returns in which like you can beat the inflation and taxation, then you have to take at least little bit risks you have to take. But as I show you in the subsequent slide at how return are consistent every month in a range but in a consistent way. And like this is a unique opportunity in which risk and return profile is different. So एक diversification का भी option देता है ये fund कि like in your product kitty you can add this fund as a diversification tool. Generally what we see like people invest in real estate, gold, equity, mutual fund. But ये एक fund ऐसा है जिसमें debt से आपको ज़्यादा मिलेगा तो you can put your money in this fund also. So एक diversification का भी option इस fund में open है. And now why this is only the same slide. Why we are confident that we can beat the fixed income return instrument? Because whether market is going up, down or sideways, कोई भी कहीं का भी market हो, कैसे भी movement हो, we always try to strategize in such a way that strategy work in all kind of market. Why? First of all, we never trade only in one strategy. We always try to deploy 3 or 4 strategies together. उसमें से भी एक या दो स्ट्रैटेजी मेरा एक स्ट्रैटेजी तो 100% दो स्ट्रैटेजी का काउंटर होगा, एक स्ट्रैटेजी हाई वोलेटाइल होगा कि कभी भी कोई मार्केट में फ्लक्चुएशंस आती है तो दैट स्ट्रैटेजी कैटर्स दी एम्पटम ऑफ अदर स्ट्रैटेजीज एंड ओवरऑल अल्फा जनरेशन हो जाता है उसमें. So this kind of strategy we do in this fund. And this is the process which we follow while making any strategy. Like anyone knows about this option chain and PCR IV factory in option Greeks? Anyone has any idea? कोई फॉलो नहीं करता, डेरिवेटिव में ट्रेड कर रहे हैं आप लोग? यस?
I follow put call ratio and option chain interests both. When put call ratio is below 0.5, we feel that market is oversold position. So we can take. When it is at 1.5 level, that market is at overbought. And depending upon the open interest on the particular index or any stock future, depending upon the open interest generator, whether the call writers or the put writers are sitting at what cap, so the market direction, we can guess the market direction. At least if that highest open interest is break down the call side, we feel that short covering might take place. That is how generally option chain will look at one derivative segment kind.
So you do the option selling also?
Yeah. I'm
so
an option writer.
By seeing the option strategy only, like option highest open interest only?
No. I go with candle indicators along with the stock. Actually, I price the stock in the equity. I do some GAN theory and all. According to the stock, then I go with the option chain and put call ratio. Depends on the index, how the index is been. If index is in the positive direction, I'll be on a caller side. If there is a neutral, I mean, it is a sideways market, and I'll be going with an hedging strategy. Rather than naked buying, I go with the hedge side.
It's really good to hear this, that at least you are following this kind of thing. But here I want to add this, that generally what people do, if market is on 18,500, they generally see that where the maximum open interest lies on their Nifty options. Like if maximum open interest in call side is at 19,000 level and in put side is 18,000 level, they simply sell both the side options. But it doesn't work in real life. आपको 90% टाइम में उसमें प्रॉफिट मिल जाएगा, लेकिन always try to manage all other parameters together. Like आपको देखना होगा 1SG 2SG का कैलकुलेशंस होता है, उसके अकॉर्डिंगली क्या रेंज बन रहा है मार्केट का. If suppose 2SG level gives you a range of 1200 points and your maximum open interest lies on a call side is of around 600 points, अगर आप उसमें सेल करोगे मंथली ऑप्शन तो कहीं ना कहीं आप उसमें फंस जाओगे. I am talking about the monthly option. If you are doing the weekly option, then you have to follow the 1SG level. तो आपको हमेशा क्या देखना है, in a layman terms, we see all other parameters also, कि कहाँ मेरा मैक्सिमम ओपन इंटरेस्ट है. फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल वो अगर आप वीकली कर रहे हो तो 1SG की रेंज कहाँ पर है मेरी, प्लस आपका इम्प्लाइड वॉलेटिलिटी कहाँ है. 1SG की रेंज अगर 700 पॉइंट है, वीकली ऑप्शन का मैक्सिमम ओपन इंटरेस्ट है 500 पॉइंट पे, तो आप स्टार्ट करोगे 700 से, प्लस उसमें एवरेज रेट ऐड करोगे. जो उस पर्टिकुलर स्ट्राइक को आप सेल करने जा रहे हो, उस स्ट्राइक का एवरेज रेट क्या था एट द स्टार्ट ऑफ मंथ, क्योंकि वो ऑप्शन ट्रेडर पहले ले चुका है, वो अगर आ भी गया तो उसका कोई लॉस नहीं होगा उसमें. तो यू एड दैट अमाउंट आल्सो बाय सेलिंग इन द पोजीशंस. एंड ऑफ कोर्स दी अनदर वन थिंग, आईवी. अगर आईवी आपकी लोअर साइड पे है तो अवॉइड सेलिंग कॉल एंड पुट ऑन अ मंथली साइड. वीकली यू कैन डू, बट विद द हेल्प ऑफ डेल्टा हेजिंग, क्योंकि मंथली साइड पे अगर आपने कुछ भी सेल किया और पूरा मंथ बचा हुआ है, आईवी आपका लोअर साइड पे है, तो किसी भी रीजन से इफ आईवी इंक्रीजेस देन यू कैन फेस अ लॉसेस, क्योंकि वो आईवी इतना सूटअप होगा, आपका ऑप्शन प्राइस 10 रुपये का 18 रुपये हो जाएगा. जैसे अभी क्या किया लोगों ने, 20,000 की स्ट्राइक का ये समझा कि बहुत दूर है, कुछ होगा ही नहीं. अभी भी क्या नीचे आ गया, बात अलग है, मार्केट नीचे आ गया इसलिए 7 रुपीज़ पे बहुत सेलिंग करी. अभी वो कल 13 रुपीज़ का हाई लगा के आ गया. तो जिसके पास पैसा है हु कैन मैनेज, अदरवाइज उसे आप हार जाओगे. सबने ये सोचा 20,000 कहाँ जा रहा है मार्केट. तो इफ यू कैन मैनेज योर रिस्क देन ओनली यू हैव टू ट्रेड इन द ऑप्शंस एंड फ्यूचर. और आईवी सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है, डेल्टा वैल्यूज को मैनेज करना सबसे इंपॉर्टेंट है. आईवी जब अगर आपको लग रहा है कोई इवेंट आने वाला है तो आप वीकली का ऑप्शंस बाय करो, मंथली का सेल कर दो, आपका पैसा बनेगा सेम स्ट्राइक का, क्योंकि वीकली की डेल्टा वैल्यू ज़्यादा राइज होंगी. सॉरी, एज पर दी ऑप्शन ग्रीक्स एंड ऑल. ऐसे ही सेम अगर अपोजिट है तो आप मंथली का बाय करो, वीकली का सेल कर सकते हो, आपको प्रीमियम कॉन्ट्रैक्शन होगा, आपको पैसा बन जाएगा. and the most important word, delta values. Delta values is the most important thing while selling in the options, because delta value अगर आपने अपने पोर्टफोलियो की 0.5 से ऊपर रखा तो मार्केट में थोड़ा सा भी मूवमेंट हुआ तो आपकी ऑप्शन प्रीमियम 0.5 से बढ़ जाएगी. ₹1 अगर मार्केट बढ़ा तो 0.5 से आपका ऑप्शन बढ़ जाएगा. What I do in my strategies, I always keep delta values under 0.2. कभी उससे मूवमेंट होने ही नहीं देता मैं. थीटा वैल्यू मैंने जिस रेट पे सेल किया है, अगर उसका 0.2 मतलब 10% से ज़्यादा 15% ज़्यादा उसका रेट बढ़ गया, इमीडिएटली स्विच. बिकॉज एक लेवल तक वी कैन मैनेज आर रिस्क. अगर मेरा रिस्क एक बियॉन्ड कैपेसिटी से ऊपर चले गया, नो वन कैन मैनेज इन दिस मार्केट. दिस इज अ डेरिवेटिव मार्केट. बट इफ यू नो दैट हाउ टू मैनेज योर रिस्क, हाउ टू चेंज योर पोजिशन, then definitely you can manage in all kind of market volatility. This we religiously follow in all my strategies. Anyone want to add on this, like want to understand thing? I strictly do 95% in the Nifty options only. Because Bank Nifty is very risky. Volatility is very high in Bank Nifty. Stock options में तो like it can go anywhere. Nifty अभी 1000 point Nifty बढ़ा. Many stocks are in lower side. So stocks में anything can be possible. So always better to do in a Nifty option. It is very safe and liquid. Like in my life I did many things. Like in stock option, futures, a commodity, currency, everything I done. बट जो पैसा कंसिस्टेंटली निफ्टी ऑप्शन से बन सकता है वो किसी में भी नहीं बना. इफ यू आर टॉकिंग अबाउट टू लाइक टेक प्रॉफिट इन अ रेंज, अगर आपकी एक्सपेक्टेशन ही 25%, 30%, 50% बनाने की है, देन यू हैव टू गो इन अ फ्यूचर नेकेड बाइंग एंड सेलिंग. बट एक लिमिटेड वे में आप पैसा कमाना चाहते हो तो इससे बेटर कोई प्रोडक्ट नहीं है जो आपको कंसिस्टेंट रिटर्न दे सकता है इन ऑल काइंड ऑफ मार्केट वॉलेटिलिटी और आपके पोर्टफोलियो को हैच कर सकता है. एटलीस्ट अगर आपके पास निफ्टी 100 के स्टॉक्स हैं तो आप मतलब 95% पोर्टफोलियो आपका 100% हैच कर सकते हो आप बाय डूइंग द बीटा हेजिंग. एनीवन नो अबाउट द बीटा हेजिंग? हर स्टॉक का एक बीटा होता है, उसके अकॉर्डिंग वो स्टॉक में रिस्क बताता है अपना सिस्टमेटिक रिस्क. बीटा के अकॉर्डिंग वेटेड बीटा कैलकुलेट होता है, उसके अकॉर्डिंग आप निफ्टी फ्यूचर्स में निफ्टी ऑप्शंस में पोजीशंस बनाते हो अगेंस्ट ही अपना जितना भी आपका स्टॉक्स की होल्डिंग होती है. अगर आपका निफ्टी 100 के स्टॉक्स हैं तो बहुत अच्छी हेजिंग हो जाती है बाय पेइंग ओनली 2 और 3% मार्जिन. अगर सपोज 100 करोड़ का पोर्टफोलियो है तो 3 से 4 लाख मैक्सिमम लगा के आप अपना पूरा अनलिमिटेड हेज कर सकते हो, विच आई डिड पर्सनली इन कोविड टाइम्स. लाइक रिलायंस, जैसे किसी का भी अभी वो बीटा का मेरे पास चार्ट नहीं है यहाँ पे, हर स्टॉक का एक बीटा, जैसे 1 बीटा हुआ रिलायंस का. वो जैसे निफ्टी में अगर रिलायंस के स्टॉक्स ही हैं और निफ्टी का वैल्यू ही है तो आपको सेम वैल्यू का आपको निफ्टी फ्यूचर बेचना पड़ेगा या निफ्टी का पुट लेना पड़ेगा एट दी मनी का, वो उसे पूरा हैच कर देगा. और अगर मल्टीपल स्टॉक्स हैं तो हर स्टॉक का एक एक बीटा होगा, किसी का 1, किसी का 1.5, किसी का 0.5, किसी का 3. तो उसके अकॉर्डिंग वेटेड बीटा निकलेगा. अगर सपोज वो 0.8 निकला तो आपको निफ्टी फ्यूचर 0.8 से इंटू करने पड़ेंगे उस टोटल वैल्यू का. सपोज वो टोटल वैल्यू स्टॉक का 100 CR है, 0.8 का बीटा है, तो 80 करोड़ रुपीस का आपको निफ्टी फ्यूचर बेचने पड़ेंगे या फिर पुट लेना पड़ेगा अगर आप और कंजर्वेटिव वे में जाना चाहते हो. उससे वो आपका पूरा पोर्टफोलियो हैज हो जाएगा. अपसाइड जाएगा मार्केट तो वो लॉस देगा, लेकिन फ्यूचर बढ़ेंगे जो आपके स्टॉक्स के हैं तो आपका कहीं लॉस नहीं होगा उसमें. यू कैन मैनेज योर रिस्क और डाउन साइड को आप पूरा हैज कर दोगे. और इसमें और भी पैरामीटर्स आप ऐड कर सकते हो. अगर आप यू वांट टू सेव फ्रॉम द निफ्टी फ्यूचर हेजिंग, देन एट द सेम टाइम यू कैन बाय द निफ्टी कॉल्स आल्सो. सो अपसाइड भी आप हैच कर लोगे. नीचे जाएगा तो आपको प्रॉफिट देगा ही, स्टॉक का जो लॉस होगा उससे बीट आउट हो जाएगा. और अपसाइड जाएगा तो आपने निफ्टी फ्यूचर्स की कॉल ले ली है तो आपको वो भी लॉस नहीं देगा बाय पेइंग एक्स्ट्रा 1% ऑफ मार्जिन. सो इन नेटसल दोनों केसेस में आपको प्रॉफिट हो सकता है. बट ये है कि इसे एक्टिव मैनेजमेंट आपको इसमें करना पड़ेगा. अगर पैसिव मैनेजमेंट करना है तो सिर्फ एक चीज़ करनी होगी, निफ्टी फ्यूचर्स आपको सेल करने हैं या पुट लेनी होगी. अगर एक्टिव मैनेज करना है कि उसमें भी मेरा लॉस नहीं हो तो आपको कॉल और पुट में भी आपको पोजीशन बनानी पड़ेगी, लेकिन उससे फिर वो एक्टिव मैनेजमेंट हो जाता है.
Sir,
Yeah.
with all due respect, you just told Bank Nifty is very risky. So does it mean Bank Nifty is very risky, or does it mean that you did not derive anything that?
नहीं,
can
I
control
arrived
Bank
everything risky in the sense volatility. निफ्टी में एक पर्टिकुलर रेंज में होती है, बैंक निफ्टी में वॉलेटिलिटी बहुत ज़्यादा है. दैट्स व्हाई आई एम यूजिंग. आई डू बैंक निफ्टी आल्सो बट इन अ डिफरेंट वे. लाइक इफ यू नो, अगर 5 स्टॉक में बैंक निफ्टी के ले लूंगा, उसकी वेटेज 80% है. बैंक निफ्टी के 5 स्टॉक ही 70-80% की वेटेज रखते हैं. हाउ आई डू, आई सेल कॉल एंड पुट ऑफ दैट 5 स्टॉक्स एंड अल्टरनेटिवली पोजिशन आई टुक इन द बैंक निफ्टी दैट कंप्लीटली हैज दैट पोर्टफोलियो. तो इस तरीके से बैंक निफ्टी में करना सेफ है. या फिर दूसरा तरीका ये है, अगर विक्स लो है मेरा और कोई इवेंट नहीं है बैंक निफ्टी से स्पेसिफिक, तो आप बैंक निफ्टी का कॉल एंड पुट आप सेल करो फ्राइडे को, करंट वीक का, और नेक्स्ट फाइनल वीक का आप बाय कर लो. आपको मंडे को ओपन होते ही कम से कम 25-30 रुपये का प्रीमियम मिल जाएगा. ऑन नॉर्मल केसेस आराम से मिल जाएगा और कुछ करने का जरूरत ही नहीं है. प्लस इसमें आप और हैजिंग टूल भी लगा सकते हो, जिससे अगर कुछ हुआ भी तो आप मैनेज कर सकते हो. पर वही है, एक्टिव मैनेजमेंट उसमें चाहिए होगा. पर बैंक निफ्टी में प्रॉब्लम क्या है, वॉलेटिलिटी बहुत हाई है. दैट्स व्हाई आई अवॉइड, क्योंकि मुझे कोई 20% नहीं निकालना. दिस प्रोडक्ट इज लाइक आई एम कंपेयरिंग विद द फिक्स इनकम. So that's why I am taking very less risky positions in the market which can generate consistent return. बैंक निफ्टी में मूवमेंट बहुत ज़्यादा होता है. अभी तो फिर भी चलो निफ्टी के रेंज में हो रहा है, कभी कभी इतना मूवमेंट हो जाता है, निफ्टी वहीं है 100 पॉइंट, वो 600 पॉइंट 800 पॉइंट बढ़ जाता है. और किसी भी एक पर्टिकुलर रीजन से भी बैंक निफ्टी मूव हो सकता है. बैंक के रीजन से कोई भी मॉनेटरी टाइप की पॉलिसी आएगी, बैंक निफ्टी मूव कर देगा, निफ्टी हो सकता है उतना नहीं करेगा. तो निफ्टी हर तरीके से इसलिए सेफ है कि मल्टीपल स्टॉक्स हैं, तो बहुत मतलब पूरा ग्लोबली अगर जीडीपी का न्यूज आएगा तो निफ्टी मूव या डाउन करता है. बैंक निफ्टी में तो स्पेसिफिक अगर बैंक निफ्टी की न्यूज आ जाएगी तो मूव कर जाएगा लाइक स्टॉक्स. तो जहां भी मतलब जहां स्पेसिफिक कुछ हो सकता है वो मैं अवॉइड करता हूं. दिस इज द रीजन ओनली टू सेइंग दैट रिस्की, नॉट दैट. I'll show you the 3 returns chart which I have managed lastly. This is the current one, in which you can see like from April onwards that how I have managed the returns. Whatever the Nifty movement is this, -2%, 3%, 4%, 8%, 3%, and 3.74%, 5.37%. My returns are static, मतलब एक रेंज में है. चाहे मार्केट में चाहे पॉजिटिव मूवमेंट दिया चाहे नेगेटिव मूवमेंट दिया. अभी नवंबर का भी इसमें ऐड नहीं है, उसमें भी 16% का रिटर्न है. तो कोई भी निफ्टी का कुछ भी मूवमेंट रहा है, मेरा मूवमेंट रिटर्न्स का बिल्कुल सेम रहा है, मतलब 2-4% ऊपर नीचे रहता है. दिस आई मैनेज इन माई ऑल पोर्टफोलियो. दिस इज द करंट स्टैटिक विच आई एम मैनेजिंग. दिस इज रियल वन, ऑल दिस थिंग्स. And I'll give you some brief introduction also, that I have been managing derivative business for last 17 years. Initially, you can say in 2007 to 2010, I managed at time 2 crore quantities in Nifty. Yes, you heard that, 2 crore quantities. If you compare 2 crore quantities as of current margin, it would require 2,000 crore rupees of margin. So that kind of positions I also manage in my time, and successfully manage the client returns and positivity for my clients. And after that, I am managing client portfolio by my own and generating consistent returns for my client. And I was a part of IIFL only for 12 years. And then I switched to IIFL Securities in 2019 as a chief investment advisor and derivative head. There I first started a derivative product in the advisory mode, and successfully managed during the period of COVID between December 2019 to October 2020. And I hope you recall that period. That was the period when COVID hit, and we all had seen what kind of movement, like, which we couldn't even think of. We had seen lower circuit, we had seen VIX move from 10 to 86%, and like lockdown, tax failure, everything we had seen. Then also I had managed and given positive return, which I'll show you in next slide. So this kind of movement I did. So we decided after that we launched AIF also in IIFL Securities and manage the same returns there. And then I come back again in IIFL, and now the product is launching. So this is a brief history of mine which I had done. And I wanted to say this because lot of experience and thought process was involved before launching this product. It's not like that overnight we have thought something and we have come up with this product. बहुत कुछ किया है इस मार्केट में, 17 साल से यही काम किया है, तो ईच एंड थिंग एवरीथिंग सब कुछ देखा है मार्केट का, कैसे मूव करता है, क्या करता है. अब तो इतना हो गया, ऑप्शन प्रीमियम का रेट देख के आइडिया लग जाता है क्या होने वाला है. तो लाइक प्रैक्टिकल सब कुछ इस मार्केट का A to Z वर्किंग की हुई है फ्रॉम लाइक यू कैन से फ्रॉम 2006 2007 लेवल से. This is the AI which I had managed here. In this also, like I started in November, that's why it's showing negative. But in all months you can see this because we have taken position in the December month. Here I want to highlight one thing, that see, this is the fund NAV. The same kind of fund I managed there also. Whatever the market movement is there in the here, like right corner you can see, but our fund NAV doesn't move by 0.4 or 0.5%. So I manage my position under 0.2, 0.3. तो मेरा फंड का NAV कभी मूव ही नहीं हुआ 0.2 से ज़्यादा. तो दिस शोज दैट हाउ आई एम मैनेजिंग माई पोजिशन, कि कभी एमटोम आने ही नहीं देता, मैं वॉलेटिलिटी आने ही नहीं देता पोजिशन में, कि उसे मैनेज करने में प्रॉब्लम आएगी मुझे. तो ऑलवेज ट्राई टू मैनेज माई पोजिशन अंडर लाइक 0.2, 0.3. दैट्स वाई एबल टू जनरेट अल्फा रिटर्न फॉर माई क्लाइंट्स. और ये पूरा किया है हर बार, हर टाइम, एवरी मंथ यू कैन सी. निफ्टी ने क्या 6% प्लस दिया है, माइनस दिया, कुछ भी दिया, मेरा NAV मूव ही नहीं हुआ 0.2 से ज़्यादा. तो आई मैनेज दैट वॉलेटिलिटी ऑल द टाइम्स बिकॉज ऑफ माई रिस्क प्रोसेस and the tools which I manage. And this is the COVID time returns. You can see in March 2020, when everyone was experiencing more than 40% fall in their portfolio, I managed to deliver positive returns at that time also. So this shows that in all kind of market situation, by employing derivative strategy in a much calculative way, you can generate consistent return. That's why I am confident that I can generate same kind of performance in future also. And how I am targeting 9%? First, whatever amount we'll get, we'll invest in the liquid asset, then we'll take the position. So liquid asset returns will also added in that point. We are not targeting somewhere around 20% or 25%. मेरे केस में 20% से ऊपर निकलेगा ही नहीं, क्योंकि जो मैंने एक्सपीरियंस किया है लास्ट 15 ईयर्स से, मार्केट में ट्रेडिंग से 15-16% ज़्यादा अगर आप रिटर्न निकालने जाओगे तो आफ्टर डेट फॉर एवरी 1% यू हैव टू बी टेक रिस्क ऑफ 3%. ये मेरा पर्सनल एक्सपीरियंस है विच आई डिड, जो मैंने देखा है मार्केट में. तो एक रेंज में रिटर्न आपका कंसिस्टेंट निकल सकता है. अगर आपको 20-25%, 50% चाहिए तो रिस्क भी उसके अकॉर्डिंग ही आएगा आपका. बट एक पर्टिकुलर एक लेवल पे आपका रिस्क मैनेज हो सकता है बहुत आराम से, विच जो लिक्विड असेट्स में लगा के लाइक 5 to 6% यू कैन गेट फ्रॉम द लिक्विड असेट्स एंड 14-15% फ्रॉम द ट्रेडिंग. Cumulative to that, it will come around 18-19%, post tax of 42.7%, and 1% is a charges, which I'll show you. After that, it will come around 9-10% post tax return. आपको उसमें कोई भी टैक्स नहीं देना है, एंड कहीं भी आपको शो करने की जरूरत नहीं है उसको. दिस आई हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस कि क्या क्या हुआ था कोविड टाइम में. And this is the risk management process which I already covered, that majorly I invest in the index derivative only. Hardly I take position in the Nifty like stocks or bank Nifty. When bank Nifty में कराया तो like in total hedge. ऐसा नहीं कि कभी कोई naked कुछ किया है उसमें bank Nifty में. और किसी सिंगल रिलायंस नहीं है किसी भी स्ट्रैटेजी में. ऑलवेज आई ट्राई टू डू मल्टीपल स्ट्रैटेजीज टुगेदर, क्योंकि कोई भी एक स्ट्रैटेजी हो सकता है कभी फुलफिल नहीं हो. तो दैट्स वाई आई क्रिएटिंग मल्टीपल स्ट्रैटेजीज टुगेदर. एट अ टाइम एटलीस्ट 3 or 4 स्ट्रैटेजी रहता है मेरा, जिससे कम से कम वो कहीं भी मार्केट का मूव होगा तो वी कैन मैनेज दैट स्ट्रैटेजीज. And this is the taxation which I have already covered, that we are targeting around 9-10% post-tax return here, and tax fund level is 42.7%. So we have to generate around 17% pre-tax, which I am targeting. After that it would come around 9% or 10%. तो इसके बीच में एक रेंज में हम रिटर्न का टारगेट कर रहे हैं. And the most important thing, we have kept our charges very low. अगर आप कंपेयर करोगे कोई भी कैटेगरी फंड से इन मार्केट, their charges are minimum of 2 to 2.5% or 3% management fees. Here, because we are targeting with the fixed income instrument, so we have kept our charges very low for around 1%, including the management and other charges. So charges are very low in this fund. And the returns we are telling you, it's after all charges and taxation. And another plus point is this is an open-ended fund. You can exit from this fund after 6 months. 6 months is a hard locking. After that, by paying the exit load, you can anytime you can exit from this fund. This is it from my side, guys. So Q&A will take later. Okay, thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Manish Bhatwara, for your beautiful insight about IIFL Derivatives Advantage Fund. See, this fund is very good for diversify your portfolio. Now it's time to invite Mr. Sanjiv Bhasin, Indian stock market guru. He is associated with IIFL since 2015. He is having more than 30 years of experience with the Deutsche Bank, with the NDTV Profit. He is having a media coverage with CNBC Awards, even lot of other coverage also. So, welcome, sir.
Yeah, good evening to all of you, and great to be back in Hyderabad after the lockdown and so on. आप सबका स्वागत है और आपने सुन लिया मनीष से कि calculated strategy से returns can be far, which can exceed even bank deposits, and the earlier gentleman told you of how credit profile and credit risk by taking by lending to credit positive companies, how alpha can be created. Now that is the risk part, the debt part and the risk. I talk of only one thing, and that is equities. आपको सबको शेयर बाजार में इंटरेस्ट है या नहीं है, आपको इसलिए आज यहाँ है, और आज पूरा आपका कमरा भरा हुआ है क्योंकि 19,000 का निफ्टी हो गया. अभी 16,000 पे आता तो आप बोलते सर अभी सोचेंगे, बिकॉज द foreigners are selling and the TV analysts are bearish. Before you can buy or sell, the TV analysts have already made up their mind. Correct? So a lot of my friends who are of my age, I've just turned 60, and they all ask me, you come on CNBC, make us also speak and meet Sonia Shenoy. You heard of Sonia Shenoy? It's a very pretty anchor who comes on CNBC TV 18. आपने देखा उसे? इंग्लिश बहुत अच्छा बोलती है और सुंदर भी बहुत है. तो when the index went to 15,300, my friends and they came and met me, so they were saying what to do. I said in the next 2 months the index will go to 18,000. So they said you are always bullish. I said I think that there is a very good opportunity, you should buy. So they said when will you introduce to Sonia? So I said you see the show tomorrow. And I come once a month on CNBC TV 18, not regularly, but once in. So the next day I came on the morning show, and again, as usual, Sonia was there. So the index was 15,500, and Sonia's first thing was that I'm just telling you what anchors do. So she said, so Sanjeev, next week we are going to see 14,000. So I said, Sonia, you've scared me before I could sit down also. No, now Bernstein and Jeffries and XYZ and all the names. I said, I think we are going to see 18,000. So she was laughing, and not so highly, but in her heart she was saying, what a fool. And then lo and behold, time changed and the index went to 18,000. So I asked my friends, what shares did you buy? They said, we wanted to buy, but we saw Sonia Shenoy and she's saying 14,000. So I said, एक ही simple reason है, सुंदरता पे जाओगे तो पैसे कमाओगे, मुझे देखोगे तो पैसे कमाओगे. समझ आया? So if you are attractive and you can speak well, you will never make money. I also speak well, and maybe my face is not that, but I know how to make money. And I'll tell you, the biggest caveat was when the fools sell, you should buy, and when the fools buy, you should sell. And who are the fools? There is only one fool, the FI. Because they are the perfect picture of greed and fear. What makes money? Money is only made through emotions, correct? At 16,000, you had the opportunity, you had the money, but you didn't have the emotion. You were caught in panic and fear. Not by yourself, but by TV channels and people, correct? Even people like me. Though I am a contrarian, I am mostly positive. And right now you are saying only greed. You are saying, Mr. Bhasin, say any share I will buy, correct? Raise your hand. You will buy anything, even you will buy Paytm and XYZ. So they asked me 2-3 days, sir, Paytm now Jeffries is saying 700. I said, yeah, at 2150 also he said 3,000. At 1800 he said 2,000. So I said, targets will come and go. It's where you will get the comfort and where you can make money. There is nothing called good or bad and X or Y. It is just how much time you spend. So there is a thin line between the investor and the trader. The trader trades the price. The investor trades the business. Warren Buffett held on to Coca-Cola for guess how many years? Take a guess. You've heard of Warren Buffett? In 2012, I was with NDTV on a contract basis. I was in Hong Kong before that. I came back and I used to be on TV every day. And Dr. Roy said, Sanjiv, I would like you to come in the interaction with Mr. Buffett. Warren Buffett was in India. So he said, you know, my meter is running. Sanjiv, I invested $5 billion in Goldman Sachs preferential bond. See, in India, bonds are mostly, we don't have the concept of preferential bonds. In the US, there are preferential bonds which come with coupon rates and the option to subscribe to equity. So he in the chaos of 2008, bought preferential bonds of $5 billion of Goldman Sachs with a coupon rate of $80 for the stock. He said, my meter is ticking $10 per second. For every second, I am making $10. And then he asked me, do you know how many years I held on to Coca-Cola? This was in 2012. Now, it is not that Coca-Cola went up like a rocket. It went through cycles. It's a business. You've all heard of Coca-Cola? Guess how many years he held? Take a guess. 15, 20? Yeah, 41 years in 2012. Now that tells you what? Conviction. आप क्या रख सकते हैं 40 साल? बताइए. एक तो आपकी सर की छत है, उसमें तो आप रहते हो. दूसरा क्या रखते हो आप? गोल्ड. है या नहीं है? और गोल्ड किस लिए है? आपकी वजह से नहीं है. It's because of the lady in your house, जो आपके घर में लक्ष्मी है. आपके हाथ में सोना आता तो 5-6 हजार में बेच देते सारा. ये तो लेडीज ने आपको अपनी सिक्योरिटीज और अपनी लाइफ का साइकिल है, यू नो, इंडिया की हेरिडिटी है कि सोना घर में आएगा, बाहर नहीं जाएगा. So she held on to it for 30 years. That's why she has created wealth. So you should only take her blessings. For you, sitting on 30 years is only, one is real estate, second is gold, and third is fixed income, which is your equity. How many of you have held for 30 years, 40 years? Very few. Because you don't believe. Firstly in the government, then in the corporates, then there is fraud, then there is mayhem in companies which you own, XYZ, correct? So your pattern is limited. At 19,000, I met 5 clients in Hyderabad. They are saying, sir, tell us something good for the next 5 years. And believe me, when this index goes to 17,000, they will say, sir, only for 5 days. Tell me what to buy. You understand now what greed and fear is? Greed and fear is in all of us. Okay? And we cannot change that. Hence the concept of mutual fund and SIP, which has changed the democratic way of investing in India. Which is why you have seen that almost 3.5 lakh crores of stock was sold by the FIs when we hit that high in October last year, and we held on to everything. It is because of you, the retail investor. How many of you are holding SIPs? or have SIP and mutual fund? Very few, all the rest are not doing SIP and mutual fund. So mutual fund is a necessity, and in your home, anybody you have in your family, all must do SIPs. Because 2,000 rupees is the price of a film if you go to see it with popcorn. And 2,000 rupees if you put in a SIP, you can imagine the effect of compounding. What makes money grow? Equities are the only way that money can compound. See, gold is an asset which has emotional value. What comes in never goes out. Fixed income cannot beat inflation as in the present trend. And real estate is limited by size. You don't have that much of capital. The only other instrument which can beat inflation is equity. But depending on your time span, depending on your age profile, depending on your risk profile. All those three things count on how you can grow. So I have been doing this for the last 6 months. Global capitulation gives local opportunity by the fear. Of course, I was proven correct. And the correct part is that we have actually conquered the fear. Back pe jaiye. Nahi, pehle. We have conquered the fear and we've hit new highs. 6 months back or 3 months back, did any of you think you will hit new highs this year? Huh? You are confident, ma'am? Thumbs up to you, ma'am. Otherwise, I think in this entire room, very few people would have thought that you could have hit new highs. Because the scenario was such that rising bond yields, US tightening, and the inflation and geopolitical risk meant that India was, India, even though we were an outlier, it was very difficult. But look at the spate of how fast we have retraced all the losses and come back with flying colors. So India is an outlier on the simple reason that the retail investor has realized that equity as an asset class is here to stay. And that's why you've had, after the demonetization, 3 crore demat accounts have jumped to almost 7 crores, and 7 crores from the COVID period has become 11 crores. And this in the next 5 years can become 18 crores, and the next 10 can double. So you can imagine how much potential a country like India has, which will make stock market and stocks always expensive. They may not be so cheap as you expect them to be. India is not a cheap market because of this demographic premium, which we have now realized that equity as an asset class is a must. That is the only way your capital can grow. Stocks, according to me, after having spent 33 years, I realized that the only way small money can find a conduit and money can compound is equities. Now, in this, the only caveat is you have to be careful in what you invest. Hence, the mutual fund route is the best. Why? Because the fund manager is not emotional. If Manish is managing money, he cannot show emotions that he is bullish or bearish, because he has to generate an alpha. Similarly, the manager is not emotional that IT is not moving in 6 months, whereas ICICI Bank and Kotak are hitting new highs. So he will shift from IT to banks. He can do that emotional shift. You cannot book a loss. आप समझे? आपके लिए लॉस बुक करना ईगो है ना? तो आपको बोलो जो ब्लू चिप्स हैं वो कितने हैं? वो हैं, लेकिन जेपी और जीवी के भी भरा हुआ है ना? वो नहीं बिकता. वो 50 पे भी फ्रॉड था और 10 पे तो और बड़ा फ्रॉड है, लेकिन आप बोलते नहीं, उसकी तो पिक्चर चिपकी हुई है मेरे पे. ऐसा है ना? It is not your fault, it is emotions. You cannot sell your winners, you cannot sell your losers. So the best thing is let the fund manager manage your money. And that is what people have realized. From 30 years I used to tell friends and friends, have your money managed. But they used to say, we know all about markets. The uncanny thing is that over time when you realize your mistakes, you should become wise. And being wise is not that you are not all wise. You are all wise. You are much more intelligent than some of us, than me here. But regarding stock market and personal investment, it sometimes is a difference of opinion. You may have a bias towards certain things. You may be very good in your business, but fund management or portfolio analysis is not easy. Hence, a professional is most required who manages this 365 days, 24/7. He knows what risk is and he knows how to manage it. And he knows the difference in trends. So that's why you've seen fund managers now get money which they never imagined would come into the mutual fund industry. And that is all because global capitulation is giving India the best demographic premium. If you go to the airport, if you went to buy cars, if you went for travel, if you stayed in a hotel, prices are touching new highs. I just checked into the ITC and the price over there is 12,500 for an overnight room, which 1 year back would have been 4,500. So imagine why last year my top pick was Indian Hotel at 140 in Diwali and it is hit 340. Now, for hotel stocks like an Indian hotel, the fixed cost remains. But when revenues, average room rates jump double and triple, then the profitability comes back. And right now, everyone wants to relive life after the chaos of COVID. By the grace of God, we all managed to get past the biggest pandemic ever. And if you all remember at 7,800, 79 people used to say, the foreigners particularly, who can speak very well and who wear excellent ties and shirts and cufflinks, that everything will end. Correct? I was one of the few who said we will go much higher than you ever dreamt, because the simple case was that the US printed and the central banks printed the amount of money which you cannot imagine. $7 trillion was printed by the US central bank, which led to all asset classes rise in tandem and bond yields became almost zero, which also said that there was markets, or globally there was awash with liquidity. And the biggest problem was that till last year when inflation was rising, the Fed misread inflation. You all read about the Fed? Abhi 3 mahine tak to Fed hi chal raha tha na. So when the Fed misread inflation last year, instead of not printing more money, he should have gradually started to raise rates. He said inflation is transitory. And what happens when big politics and big institutions make mistakes? It becomes, they lose their credibility. So the Fed had no option now but to raise rates by 75 basis points. Unheard of in 40 years. 75 basis points 4 times just to get back credibility. अब आप समझे, गलती नहीं मानना, लेकिन गलती को ठीक करने के लिए, kill the rabbit. And the same thing happened with Mr. Joe Biden and Mr. Putin. A conflict of interest which we all don't have any hand over or any governance over or any control over. So markets have to gauge with, walls of worry. And despite all those walls of worry, Indian index has hit a new high, 63,600 on the Sensex and 18,887 on the Nifty. Next. Yeah. Inflation has peaked in India, in the US. Also oversold markets in US due to ETF selling. Foreign selling is more excessive in India. Slowdown in China and Russia problem. So you've seen आपके neighbors के साथ क्या हो रहा है. श्रीलंका में problem, पाकिस्तान में खाने को नहीं है, चाइना में बहुत बड़ी deficit है, COVID has come back to strike them. There's a saying, what you sow, so you reap. आप समझते हैं? जो आप बोगे वही आपको खाना पड़ेगा. Who started the COVID whole drama? It was all China. Now it's come back to bite them. And their debt position and their balance sheet are in the worst position ever. South Korea has, Taiwan has problems because of China's, again, geopolitical risk. So which leaves only India as the best demographic premium. Manufacturing PLI shift from China is doing extremely well. I was amazed at the type of startups I saw in Bangalore. And just today I met 3 startups and probable companies which will get listed in the near future, which are looking for higher, bigger IPOs, all to do with pharma and scientific testing, which is the new industry. Unexpected rate hike by the RBI. Now, when the US credibility of the Fed went to stake, he started to raise rates. When you raise rates in an environment of high inflation, the dollar became the biggest cause of worry for global currencies. And Europe is actually the elephant in the room. Europe was so dependent on Russia as far as energy goes that they have gone into a total recession. आपने समझे? किसी ने नहीं सोचा था कि यूरोप is so dependent on Russia कि oil gas की वजह से वहाँ पे इतना बड़ा recession आ जाएगा. And you had the US dollar which has sent the euro to below par. You know, it used to trade at 1.3, 1.2, 1.2.2. It went to 0.98. So actually, this is the best time to sell stock and go to Europe for a holiday. आप समझे? प्रॉफिट है तो कमाओ और गा के घूमो, क्योंकि यूरोप में इस तरह का भाव आपको कभी मिल ही नहीं सकता. क्रूड ऑयल सप्लाई और डिमांड इज मोर और लेस गेटिंग न्यूट्रलाइज. अब ये बड़ी सिंपल चीज है. मैं इसलिए नहीं कहता कि FIs आर राइट और रॉन्ग. ऑल आई टेल यू इज दैट दे एक्ट एज हर्ड्स. They are always going to be, proxy to greed and fear. I'll tell you a simple case. In 2009, I was in Hong Kong and I used to trade the prop book for Deutsche Bank. I came back from 2009 from Hong Kong and in January 18th or 19th, I went to Vrindavan. और वृंदावन में जाके मैं बिहारी जी के दर्शन किए और 11 साढ़े 11 बाहर आया. तो मेरे ब्रोकर का फोन आया, बोला संजीव जी. मैंने कहा हाँ. बोला आपको पता है सत्यम का भाव? मैंने कहा क्या? बोला 12 रुपए. आपने याद है सत्यम आप ही की यहाँ की कंपनी थी. यू रिमेंबर द फ्रॉड इन सत्यम? 500 rupees stock came to 12 rupees. It hit 9 rupees something anything. So I said, क्या है? So I said at that day at 11 rupees 80 paisa I bought 60,000 Satyam. I bought 60,000 Satyam. Now how much could I lose? 1180, I would have not lost anything more. So I thought I did a big bargain buy. I went and checked the data. NSE, by the way, has all data. And guess who beat me to it? Someone did it cheaper. That fund's name is JP Morgan. You've heard of JP Morgan? Largest investment bank. And these are official figures. You can go and check. JP Morgan sold 75 lakh shares of Satyam at 1080 average. How many shares? 75 lakhs. So then I said, देखो कैसा गधा है, 10 रुपए और नहीं जाने देता. अगर 500 में से 490 निकल गए, 10 और जाने देता. Then I realized that जितने बड़ा होएगा उतना खोटा होएगा. I sold that 1180 for 250 rupees after 2 years. I'm just telling you what greed and fear does. So don't go by smart people who look very attractive and who deceive you with looks. A, you will lose your heart rather than your head. And B, don't get caught up by the bigger name, JP Morgan, inflation, Bernstein. They have no clue, particularly on India. Trust IIFL Securities and trust Sanjiv Bhasin. On a lighter note. GST tax collections are at record high. This is not me. These are figures which are officially there. So if you are talking of growth, even 6.7 is a very strong number in a global context where there is no growth. The US doesn't know what to do. If job numbers are better than expected, the markets fall because the Fed will raise rates. If markets go into a recession, you say the Fed will have to slow down on rates. So make up your mind what you want. Correct? In fact, I have not seen a weaker president than Mr. Joe Biden. So it is not in my doing or my personal hearing. It is just that you don't know what is going on. And unfortunately, right now, the best place to be in is in India. So I am a be Indian, buy Indian and a patriot, and I will continue to be bullish on India, despite us hitting new highs. Next. Investing is all about allocating money towards asset, and beating inflation, beating return. So either you can go in a risk-free product with like inflation, like Manish says, where you can beat bank FDs, but if your aim is to grow capital over years, then you have to invest in a brand, in a business, in an environment where the demographic premium of spending is at its best. And as yet, reopening hasn't fully taken place. If you heard the Taj management, they say, sir, it will only start in 2023. Abhi shaadi ke season mein there is something like 3 lakh crores to be spent in the next 3 months. You can imagine what budgets are and what reopening is, because you live only once. Now what are brands? You all are aware how growth comes and why brands trade at a premium, because brands are created over years, not years, over decades to create a brand. So I'll tell you how I started my experience in the stock market. In 1988-89, I came first class graduate from SRCC. I had done my half chartered accountancy, but I got lured by the stock market bug. And that time the stock market used to be an outcry. I don't know if any of the elders know. You had to shout. It used to run for 2.5 hours. So when I went on the floor, I met one of my father's friends, and he was a person who could tell stocks like this. You know, he was very, very astute, and he could neither speak Hindi or English, meaning he was not some brainwave, but he was a practical experience work. He could only speak Punjabi. Anybody here understand Punjabi? No. So I'll tell you the meaning. So I asked him what stock to buy. So he said, Kakas, पॉन्ड्स का शेयर खरीद ले. 16 साल दी जवान, 78 साल दी बुजुर्ग रोज सवेरे शाम लाएगी, ये कभी आउट ऑफ फैशन नहीं जाएगा. What he meant was that buy the share of ponds, 16-year-old girl and 78-year-old lady has to use it morning and evening. This will never go out of fashion. The pond share was 55 rupees in 88. After 7 years, the pond share got merged with Lever. Lever bought out. Today, guess what's the price of ponds? And by the way, I use ponds today. I think a lot of you must be using ponds. The price of ponds today is 55,000. How much? And it's still one of the most used brands. That is called the power of brand. That is why you have the big five, that's called the FANG stocks. Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix and Google hit market caps of $7 trillion. Our entire market cap must be worth $3.4, $3.5 trillion at new highs. There just 5 companies are worth $7 trillion. That is called the power of brands, how they manage them and how they sell them. And that is why you must realize why companies like Nestle or Page Industry or Ponds or Lever trade at a high premium. There is the premium is built because of the brand value. And that's why high price multiple should not deter you. The multiple of Nestle 10 years back was 45 times. If you bought it at 2000, you would have said it's the most expensive stock. Today the price of Nestle is 22,000 and it still trades at 50 times. So that is not the way. And Nestle, by the way, the management has invested 15,000 crore in the last 20 years. And the present CEO, who's globally CEO of Nestle, says that in the next 2 years we will invest 5,500 crore. That is how bullish he is on India. 5,000 crore against 30 years, 15,000 crore is what? Is immense. And you are investing now with the expectation that the next decade could be only India's. So you can imagine what these are all singularly telling you where our outperformance is. Thirdly, I have never in 30 years seen ABB, Siemens, Cummins, Thermax, L&T hit new highs. If some of the old people will tell you what these engineering giants are, which indicates that CapEx or the infrastructure play is very much in focus. And we've never had infrastructure play like the way they are, which is indicating that the CapEx cycle is coming back after 20 years. Now, why does CapEx cycle come? When you expect that the next 10 years, more capacity will be needed in industry, in anything to do with commodities, and we've not had a single new entity as far as cement or steel go in the last 20 years. So that's why these stocks are, and the stock market is a very good indicator that CapEx is going to be the bellwether, which tells us industry is really up and roaring. Next. So what are the 4 things you have to invest? One is real estate, one is gold and silver, third is fixed income, and fourth is real estate. Now all these are partially to be put in your age bracket depending on your risk profile. If you are under the age of 28, 30, 100% equity. That's the only way you will grow because you can take risk. Above the age of 50, you have to subdivide into what ratios you can take risk and cannot. Similarly, as Manish explained, a part of your portfolio can be derivative or risk-free, risk-wala trade, but if you can manage that well, that can become a regular source of income. Trading is one part, making it a regular source of income is another part, which means that don't ever fall in love with stocks. समझ आई? क्यों आप गलती खाते हो लाइफ में? जब दिमाग से चलना था, माँ बाप ने कहा अच्छी जगह अच्छी लड़की है शादी करो, नहीं मेरे को तो अपनी यूनिवर्सिटी वाली लड़की चाहिए क्योंकि उससे मेरे को प्यार हो गया, यही था ना? आपकी गलती नहीं है, इट्स एन इमोशन. प्यार इज एन इमोशन, इट कम्स वंस, हाउ कैन यू स्टॉप इट? But today in retrospect you will say, no, I should have done whatever I could. My heart should not rule my head. So in derivatives or trading, there is no emotion. There is only one thing. Either you are getting money in your pocket or it comes out. When it falls out of your pocket and the broker cuts your trade, you say share market सबसे गंदी जगह है. Brokers are hinged. The system is it's unpurified. Operators are there, the foreigners are there, and everyone is wrong. Correct? All of you tried to trade, lost money, and now you say, no, we are only investors. Correct? The hard truth. Because you don't want to accept your weaknesses. The trader trades the price. भाव. कोई गुजराती समझता है यहाँ? गुजराती में कहते हैं भाव भगवान छे. When you travel in the local from Bandra to Churchgate where I used to travel, 4 Gujaratis will come and say the best and the most learned community on money is Gujarati and Marwari. उनको सब पता है भाव का. Okay? They only know about money. So the simple reason is you cannot fall in love with stocks if you are a trader. Correct? If Reliance is weak, बेच दो. What you do is, you will buy it, your loss will be this much, profit will be this much. है ना? Profit is this much, there is a party going on. Loss will be this much, wife will say, चाय तो पी लो, you will say, नहीं आज तो मेरा उपवास है. Simple reasoning. Loss accept नहीं करना, the ego kills it. So the only way a derivative trader makes money is if he is egoless. Correct? And he lasts for the next day. Learn to book losses, not profits, if you are a trader. There is a thin line between being a trader and an investor. The investor buys the business of bonds and keeps it for 30 years, and the investment grows by unimaginable time. The trader trades the price. आज लॉस दे दिया, कल वापस मौका आएगा, मगर भाव के साथ जाना है. भाव मंदा है तो बेचो, भाव तेज है तो खरीदो. 16,500 के नीचे बाजार में मंदा है, 18,500 के ऊपर तेजी है. आप किस कैंप में हो? 16,500 पे आपसे बेचा नहीं जाएगा, 18,500 से आपसे खरीदा नहीं जाएगा. ऐसा ही है ना? आप बोल रहे हो भसीन साहब नीचे आ जाए तो मैं ले लूंगा. सब बोलते हैं सर आज नहीं तो कल नीचे आएगा तो मैं ले लूंगा. आप चाहते हो 19,000 से 17,000 आ जाए, आपका पेट भर जाए, फिर वापस 19,000 जाए. यही है ना? अगर 17,000 आया तो फिर 19,000 आएगा ही नहीं. This is called share market. Understood? And TV analysts unfortunately become more bullish or bearish before the end. Their job is to educate the investor. How will the investor make money? When there are bad periods, he has to buy good stocks. You will deter him from buying. You will say, now tomorrow there will be panic. Correct? So I have spoken a lot, I have told, but it's of no avail. You people again fall in the trap of good looks and good speech. Next. Now potential of investment is all about risk and reward. High and low is all about what your risk profile is. Hence, equity investment is not riskless. It has got a lot of risk associated, and the risk can be stock specific, sector specific, company specific. But as a basket of stocks, if you just bought the Nifty, If you are a passive investor just invested in the Nifty, it has 23 sectors and 65% of market cap. So imagine how much of risk coverage you are doing or risk mitigation you are doing by buying a basket of stocks. That is the beauty of index. And that is why the index, the bank Nifty, bank Bs and the Nifty Bs are the best thing you should be doing. Because you are getting a basket of stocks. Always remember, if you bought a basket and 4 didn't do well, the other 6 will make up. But single stock specific, unless you are very, very pro, it is not good. And thirdly, the best option is hand it to the fund manager who is managing your money and who knows over a period of time, positive returns will come. Next. Now, कितनों ने पेटीएम में पैसा डाला था 2150 में? डाला था किसी ने? चलो very good, एक तो सही. So see, the flavor of the day in October was 18,500. You would have bought anything. So unfortunately, fortunately, it's not that Paytm and Zomato are not good businesses, but they were priced to perfection and they left very little room on the table. Now, at 450, there is a very good chance of making. In all this chaos, I am suggesting one name. I have done a lot of study. My son has opened a restaurant since 1 year. 23% is taken away by Zomato. And I think Zomato is definitely going to be one of the outperformers in the next 2 years. So as a disclosure, around the 55, 57 levels, for our big clients, I have bought, but I have told them for 2 years, don't question the quarterly balance sheet. Because these are new age businesses, they need time. But आप में से कितनों ने सोचा था 2 साल पहले के स्विगी जोमेटो रोज आपके घर आएगा? आज के आपके you don't need servants और आपके जो whims and fancies of every child, every person ordering something can easily be catered to. So it is a very, very unique concept and I think it is only going to grow. Plus profitability may be just round the corner in the next 1 year. So Zomato would be my top pick. Paytm could be played as a trading pick till 750, but get in and get out. You have to be swift in your actions. However, if you have a long-term view, some of these businesses could be multi-baggers, and which we have seen in the case of US, how some of the large fintech companies have grown manifold. Next. So, simple thing, if you are not following the stock market, you are missing the biggest opportunities ever. India's demographic premium, the cult of equity investment is just at the tip of the iceberg. And आप में से पुराने आदमियों को पता होगा कि अगर आपने 20-30 साल अच्छे शेयर रखे हैं तो क्या रिटर्न उसमें आया है. It has beaten all other asset classes. Now same is the story for the next 30 years. Depending on your age profile, hence, we would suggest anybody in your house, from small to big, all must have demat accounts. They all must have SIPs. They must have mutual fund as an investment. IIFL and Manohar are here. I think Manohar is one of our oldest persons in Hyderabad who is very well known, both for the trading side, for the investment side, for the alternative investment side. And I have no two ways to say, but he has been one of my favorites for the last 8 years which I have been here. And I think going ahead also, because Manohar is like a family member, he goes and sees to all the needs and so on. So if anybody is lacking that, we are definitely here to service that. As a brokerage industry, as an investment house, if you have seen me on TV, my first priority is the end investor. I can be wrong many times, but I make sure that I stand by my conviction. I don't change my views so easily. Like right now, I would say it's a good time to take home some money home if you have been investing. Because let this whole chaos of upside die down. The budget is there, which is not very far, and you are going to get some pullbacks which will give you an opportunity. So raising cash, if you have made good money, is also a good option sometimes. Sitting on cash is not a bad option. Plus, when you are seeing that the market is looking fully priced and overbought on a lot of readings which we do on premiums on Nifty and Bank Nifty, it's always good to take home some money, unless you are more quiet. So at 19,000, my call would be, it is good to be a trader rather than an investor here. The risk reward is not favorable. The trader has to see कि अगर उसे दिखता हो कहीं प्रीमियम पे कॉल बिक रही है, he should sell that or he should hedge himself. Alternatively, if you are buying 2 things, you should learn to sell 2 things. And in the end, the mark to market gets balanced by what you buy or sell. but your delta towards the Nifty remains, or the index remains neutral. So being neutral here is good. There is money to be made, but I think markets are definitely looking overbought. There can be a correction of 3 to 5%. But that tells me कि अगर आप invested हो तभी आप पैसा कमाओगे. Suppose you came in January, February and you saw that 18,000 and again you missed the last 6 months. You saw the low of 15,300, but you are back to new highs. So in 6 months nothing has changed. Only the stock constitution may have changed. Everybody had written off PSUs like they never existed. And as yet, the type of money PSUs have made is unbelievable. From State Bank to Bank of Baroda to PNB to you name it, to BEL to HAL, they have been the biggest outliers are the PSU index. और मैं ये 3 साल से कहता था, buy the CPSE ETF. It used to be 15, 17. It comprises of 12 different stocks. The CPSE ETF has hit a high of 40 in the last 3 years, which was 15. So remember, a good ETF or a good basket will always make you more money than others. The last 3 years, who has been the biggest wealth creator? बताइए आप. The most hated. रोज मेरे को मेरे दोस्त बोलते हैं कब अडानी पे रेड होएगा, कब बैंक उसका दिवाला निकालेंगी. Adanis have created the maximum wealth in the last 3 years. Correct? But because people don't own it, they will sit out and criticize. Most leverage, banks have left. So there is nothing called sour grapes. There is only one thing called ownership. If you owned Adani shares and you had the vision what he had, you would have created wealth. I am not a proponent for Adani. Neither am I a Gujarati. I am a hardcore Punjabi. But if they happen to be Gujaratis and Modi ji is also Gujarati, so don't try and tie the two. But that's a normal symptom. Got my point? And in fact, I think the Adanis are poised to do even better because they're in all monopoly businesses. So businesses and groups and timing is very difficult. But when time comes to perform, even dead horses can become, the best race horses, which is evident in what the PSUs have done. The only thing which counts is ownership. अगर आपने 40 साल सोना रखा है, वो इस कारण से रखा है क्योंकि आप अपनी घरवाली के साथ हो. ऐसा है? अगर आप बोलते हो मैं सोना बेच दूंगा तो घरवाली आपको छोड़ देगी, सोने को नहीं छोड़ेगी. तो आपके पास चॉइस नहीं था. इस कारण से आपके सोना बचे रहा. सिमिलर इज द केस विद शेयर्स. अगर आपने 30 साल 40 साल स्टॉक रखा तो आज आप वेल्थ को देखो कैसे मल्टीप्लाई हुआ. ओनरशिप एंड टाइम. द मोर टाइम यू स्पेंड, देयर इज अ सेइंग, don't try and time the market but spend time in the market. The more time you spend in any asset, it will always create wealth. Next. Mid caps, the worst performing in the last 5 years. In the last 2 years, what mid caps have done is unbelievable. And that is what tells you that the ones which have weathered all the problems from demonetization, then COVID, then Ukraine, then Putin, now Fed, all that has got digested, and even after all that, mid caps are still roaring. So I think that mid caps have proved their mettle, that they are, there is a differentiation from the men from the boys, and some sectors and stocks have truly outperformed. So mid caps have been a very, very stellar performer, and we think now, even today, आज आपने मार्केट देखा 120-30 पॉइंट डाउन था, लेकिन मिड कैप्स वर हिटिंग न्यू हाइज. सो इट टेल्स यू breadth of the market is very positive, and that is an indicator that there is still steam left in stock sectors. Next. Now banks and telecom were underperforming. They have come back, and IT, which was an outperformer, has underperformed. It has recently caught up because of the weakness in the dollar and fall in bond yields. But I think IT as an outsourcer is still there. Only attrition and wage effects have played a little bit of a problem. And if global growth, which is set to be in a recession for at least a couple of quarters, then you could see some setback in IT, in the sense it could nearly, in the near term, maybe an underperformer. But stock specific, I think IT's burst may be behind. IT and metals can be good contrarian plays. Next. So macro numbers and micro numbers are something which will always confuse you. Don't go by that. Look at what you own. Look at what your profile is. Look at what your capacity to take risk is. That is the only way you can create good portfolios. Certain part in real estate, certain part in fixed income, certain part in bullion, and certain part in equity. The fifth asset class is, if you want to beat inflation beating return, the CAT3, which we say is a hedge fund in a way which always, mitigates risk to an extent. Nothing can be fully risk free, but it still gives you a better alpha than a fixed income product. So all these are part of what you can look at if you want to diversify your fund flows. Next. So these stocks and sectors have outperformed. We still think that these are going to be the stellar performers. You have to see where you want to put your money. We still think that certain stock sectors can be outperformed, and that's why you have to be selective in what you pick as your stocks. But like I said, right now being in the trading side would be better than being an investor, unless you are doing a SIP. The SIP person remains unchartered because he is doing it on a monthly or a weekly or a quarterly basis. Next. These have been 10 of my jewels which I have been taking out for the last 6 months. Some have been a relative outperformer, couple of underperformers. I still think that they are ITC, from being a dog of a stock in the last 3 years, in the last 1 year has been an outperformer. ICICI Bank is gaining only market share. Ultratech, largest cement player, is just coming of his own. I think it can even go into 5 figures. IRB Infra is the best play you have on 24,000 crores of kilometers of roadway, and you know now FASTag is compulsory. You have to, and interstate traffic is increasing by the day. L&T is the best proxy play for infrastructure. SW Solar has underperformed, but Tata Reliance Energy has picked up a stake at 375. It's the largest player in solar panels. DLF is arguably one of the best real estate plays, and I think real estate is here to stay. HCL Tech is a very convincing name on trades that have the valuations of TCS. Godrej Consumer is a very good conduit on the consumption side. And last but not least, Bosch. I think Bosch is arguably one of the best OEMs we have. And as Europe opens and India sees more color on autos, Bosch can be a true outperformer. This is just a reflection of 10 stocks. You can pick your, we can give you more advice. But please, get in touch with Manohar, open your trading or demat accounts, get more wisdom into what trading is. We always will, we will have more catering to make you understand what option premiums are, how you can take part, how the theta kills the premium as fast as the expiry comes to closer, and why always 9 out of 10 times selling makes sense in premiums, because the time becomes a bigger, enemy against holding stocks or buying options. Next. So keep the faith. We have been correct in the last 24 months and hopefully will be more correct. Again, मेरे साथ आपको सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद यहाँ आने के लिए. Thank you so much. Be healthy, wealthy and wise. And please open demat accounts, open SIP accounts in all the names of your family members, because the only way forward is owning equity in India. And India's demographic premium will continue to rule the roost. And I think the next 10, 20, 30 years only belong to equity as an asset class, as we nurture into, $100 billion becoming 500 billion and more players joining that. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjiv Bhasin sir, for your wonderful insights. Now it's the time for question and answers. If you want to have any question and answers, Mr. Sanjiv Bhasin sir or Manish Batwara, feel free.
Uh, Thank you, Mr. Sanjiv Bhasin, sir. It was wonderful listening to you. I am a big fan of yours. My question to you is, as on today, lot of American stocks, technology stocks especially, they are very much undervalued and they've gone down by 30-40% like Google and all. Because you know better than me that they have excellent moats. And do you advise anyone to invest in them right now?
Yeah, very good point. I think again the Nasdaq closer to that 10.5, 11,000 will give an excellent entry point. And if you have a waiting period of 6 months, I think the Nasdaq fits the bill perfectly. You know, stocks like Google, Microsoft, or an Amazon, they are giving you again once in a lifetime opportunity because of this chaos. Sooner rather than later, though, they have a very good moat behind them. And once we get through this, short-term blip, they will be back up and roaring. You cannot have a replacement for the type of companies they are. And I think we have couple of funds. Manohar can advise you on trying and getting investment into some of the overseas listed funds, which can invest, mutual funds which can invest in overseas stocks. Anybody else? So pharma has been, the best was there when COVID was at its peak, and now there is a rationalization, but I still think Sun, Dr. Reddy and Cipla are three stocks which can outperform. I still think they are the bluest of blue chips. And remember, at 19,000 you want to be in the safest stocks, which may be at a premium, but they are there because of that.
Sanjiv sir, which is the best sector as of now?
So simple, I think, real estate is going to stand out. Banks become a very good proxy pay, and on the capex expansion and the liability franchise, cement is an underdog which I think can do very well because now pricing has come back and coke and fuel prices have fallen. And fourth, last but not least, infrastructure. Those are very sweet spots. Consumption will do well because that has been, hit by some of the input costs. But once margins rationalize, the type of spending you're seeing, that can be a very powerful, impediment for them.
So real estate, cement.
Real estate, industrial, cement, banks, and consumption. Which one?
Manufacturing.
Yeah, manufacturing. I told you, look at the way capex is happening. Manufacturing is in the best. Plus, you must realize that PLI is now seeing very big companies, multinationals make a beeline for India. China is in a very no-go zone just now. They've got their own problems, this COVID thing. So China 1 and Euro 1 is going to see a lot of PLI come into India. It may not immediately give an effect, but in the next 3-5 years, it makes India a very good destination, which is why you're seeing this capex expansion stocks do extremely well.
So what about automotive?
Yeah, auto has been a star, and last 2 years you've seen. Now, sooner rather than later, they will be, who thought that Mahindra will double or Maruti will. So I still think autos are in for good times because our simple reasoning is that autos is what? It's an aspiration. You are moved from a cycle to a motorcycle to a four-wheeler, and then you move from the Alto to the Ertiga to the bigger car. The SUVs are now seeing the best demand ever, and aspirations are always going to keep driving you higher. So autos are in a very sweet spot. My top pick there would be Ashok Leyland on the CV side, Tata Motor, given that they are looking to synchronize once China opens up. You can add a Maruti, you can add a TVS Motor and Bajaj Auto. But you must have Motherson Sumi and Bosch in the OEM category along with Apollo Tyre on declines.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, specialty chemicals again is seeing very good traction, and even though input costs went up and hurt margins, but I think the shift from China can be very good. SRF, Athul and PI industry would be three of the top picks there. Now, इतना specific उसमें कोई immediately मेरे पे कोई I don't have something which I can needle down to. Some of those stocks on Electra Green and others have already run up a lot. So I cannot comment because that's an industry which is nascent. I would rather play the EV sector as a whole, and in that I think M&M and Tata Motor would be the top picks. We can now take some more question answer. You can start your dinner also. It's getting late. If you have any queries for Manish, he is here. So thank you all for coming, and again, good night and wish you all the best.
Bro, you are